This week's One Image My Edit. So this week I'm going to be showing you how to create what I'm calling brown and dark. So it's a brown and dark kind of edit to your images, which gives a real vintage look. I'm quite fond of it, and it's something that I'm using a lot myself at the minute, so I thought I would show you how to do it. So you can see here, this is the before picture. We've got lovely bright colours, but then we've got the brown and dark kind of edit process where it just dulls everything down, and like I say, gives you this lovely vintage look. Okay, so I'm going to reset everything and walk you through how to achieve this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring the color temperature down a little bit to around -6, -7, something like that. And that just takes off the yellow kind of tinge to it and gives it more of a blue tinge. And then with the tint, I'm just going to push that up slightly as well, just so we get going away from the greens a little bit more. I'm also going to bring the exposure down, but not by a lot. Probably it's not even half a stop. So just to dull the whole image down a little bit, and that's the start of this process of dulling down the image. So we're going to do the same with the highlights. Okay, so I'm going to bring these down to around -32, 31, something around there. So again, we're just suppressing them highlights, okay? But we want to bring detail back out into the shadows quite a bit. So I'm going to push them up to around 60, 61, around there. So that just gives us a nice balance there. So we're pushing these highlights down and just bringing the detail back out in the shadow areas. And then we're going to actually suppress both the white and the blacks, and again, it's because it's a dark image, we want to create this dull look. So I'm going to bring this quite heavy to around, I would say around 45, that there, that looks quite nice. And the same with the blacks, but not as much. So I'm going to bring these to around -15, 16, something like that, around there. Okay, and that just gives us a real nice starting point. I'm going to boost the clarity up a little bit because I still want to retain sharpness within the image. Now, clarity isn't actually a sharpening tool, but it works very similar. So it just helps separate some of the colors. So I'm going to push that up to around +20, and then I'm also going to create a little bit. If we look at the dehaze there, I'm going to create a little bit less of a dehaze. I'm going to push that up to around 12, something like that, but depending on what your image you're using, you'll have to tweak that. Okay, so the next step then is the vibrance and saturation. So what I want to do is take out some of the saturation, so take out some of the color, but still maintain the vibrance. Okay, so I'm going to push the vibrance up to around 45, 44, something like that. And then to counterbalance that, we're just going to bring this down to around, I would say about -20. So you can see there what that's done. It's still kept some of the colors, but we've just pulled that saturation out a little bit. Okay. The next thing then is the tone curve. So I'm going to click up here, and I'm going to make a few points. So one there, one there, and one there. And what this is doing is just isolating these black areas and these grey points here. So I'm just going to push this up slightly so you can see I'm following this this histogram here. I'm just pushing that up slightly, bringing this down a little bit, so just suppress these blacks and then push the blacks up, and that's going to give us more of a matte effect. Okay, so it's around there, I would say. We could make it a little bit more matte look about there. Okay, so doing that just means that we're creating a more of a matte look to the image, which is what I want. Then we're going to go over to the red channel, and again we're just going to make a couple of points here and here. Now what I'm going to do is just push up the middle, so I'm going into more into that magenta range up there. Okay, and we could leave this, but I think I'm just going to pull this down just a smidge about there. So that's it for the tone curve. Now the real work begins, because what we've done in essence is suppress the image. Okay, and we've kind of played with the colors a little bit, but we're not there yet. But if you look at the before and after now, you can see what we're starting to get there, aren't we? We're starting to really dull these things down. Okay, So the next step then is coming into the hue, saturation and luminance. So I'm going to work on the hues to start with. Now I want to suppress this red. There's quite a lot of red in this image, so I'm going to bring that down to around -51, something like that. But I want to keep the orange, so I'm going to push that up though, so it's more into the yellow spectrum. Okay, so let's have a look. I reckon about there, something like that. And then the yellows, I want to bring them down so they're more into the orange spectrum. So I'm going to bring this down to around 45, 46, something like that. And then the green, the beloved green, I'm going to bring that right down to it is more of a yellow tinge. So around 67, that will do there. And then the aqua, I'm going to push this right up because I want it to be more of a blue tinge. Okay, and that's what's going to give us a little bit more of a darker shot. So I reckon about 83, about there, 83. That's quite good. And then the blues, I'm going to bring them down. So they're a little bit more in that aqua range, around 23, 24, something like that. Okay. And then the next thing then is coming into the saturation. So now we're going to think about how much of this color we want in the shot. So again, the reds, really most of this is bringing the saturation down. Okay, so we're taking the color away just to fine tune it a little bit more. So around 46, 47. The orange, I'm going to bring that down a little bit, not too much on this particular shot, about 15, 16. And then the yellows, I'm going to bring them down again, not too much, about 28, 29, something like that. The greens, I'm going to completely get rid of. Okay, we're going to suppress them down. And then the aqua, I'm going to bring that down as well. So I'm going to bring that quite heavily actually, to around 1991, something like that. All right, and the rest I'm going to leave. Then we're going to go to the luminance, so the brightness of these. So again, I'm going to bring these reds down because we're trying to create this kind of matte effect. So we need to do that within these colors. The orange, I'm going to go just a little bit, probably -6, because I still want that to be there, because it's quite nice. So I'm going to push the yellows up a little bit to around +6, +7. I'm going to leave the greens because we just messed with them. The aqua, I'm going to bring that down, right down to about -98, so really suppressing that. And the blues, I'm going to push them up to around 24, 25, around there. That's it. That looks pretty good. So now we've done that, you can see if you look at the pattern that we've got here. So we're really kind of changing these colors here. We're putting like the yellows more into the orange range, the orange more into the yellow range, and the red more into this magenta. And then the aqua, instead of going into a green, we're going into more of a blue range, which you can see down here. And then the saturation is just really saturating them colors out a little bit. Maybe not fully saturate the green there, just to keep a little bit in. And then the luminance, which is the brightness, you can see what I've done. I've just brought them down, especially with the aqua as well, but not 100%, just to keep some of it in. Okay. So the next thing then is the color grading. So this is really where most of the magic happens, and we can start off with the shadows. So what I'm going to do with the shadows is I'm going to select a hue of around 165, 66, something like that. So you can see the hue number here. Okay, and by moving this dial here, I can get an exact number, and it's around 165 is around what I want. It's quite a nice sort of aqua there. And the saturation, I'm going to bring that down. So to bring the saturation down, you just pull this lever down here, and I give it about 5 or 6. There we go, something like that. So that works quite nice. And then what I'm going to do is actually change the blending. So I'm going to push that up to 100%. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that is because I'm now going to go to the midtones, and I'm going to add some colors in this here, and I'm going to add a sort of a green, I suppose. And So if we look at the hue, I'm going to go around 98, something like that, 98, 99, around that range. So it's quite a bright color, but I'm going to keep the saturation relatively low. So I'm going to keep the saturation. Actually, let's push that up. Yeah, that's quite nice actually. It's given us more of this kind of brown look, isn't it? And then yeah, let's change this to around 98, 99, around there. Yeah, something like that. There we go. So that's quite nice. That's getting there, isn't it? So the next thing then, let's add a little bit of sharpening because we've done a lot of work. So we just I want to maintain some sharpness. So I'm going to about 35. I'm going to bring the radius down because that's at 1 pixel at the minute. I'm just going to bring that down a little bit to around there, about 0.8 of a pixel. Still keep the detail. We're going to add some noise reduction because we've done quite a bit of work. So I just want to add a little bit of noise reduction to it, just to help, and especially in the color as well. So I'm going to push that up to around 12, 13, something like that. And that just helps us, you know, get rid of any noise that we might have had. And then I think to finish it off, a vignette would be nice. I want to remove some chromatic abrasions as well, so in case we get any of that. That should be a given anyway on any edit that you do. So the actual post-crop vignette, I'm going to bring that right down to around 30, 32, something like that. And then the midpoint I'm going to change. I'm going to put that in quite heavy so you can really bring the eye into the middle of the shot. And then the roundness, I'm just going to make that a little bit softer and push that up to around 29. And then feather, I'm just going to feather it off so it's a nice blend to around 80, 81, something like that. And that's pretty much it. That's how I do it. So if we look at that as a before and after, so I'm going to press Y on the keyboard, you can see there that we've got quite a nice effect there. And it does work really, really well. It gives you an image that's, like I say, it's a little bit more cinematic, but it's got a lot of sort of hues in it that are kind of brown, but there's a lot of aqua in there. There's a lot of blue aqua, as you can see down here. We've added that in, and that's what gives it this look, and just really suppressing that green and the orange there just gives us a little bit of a nicer image, so to speak. We could add oh, I didn't mean to do that. We could add a little bit of contrast as well if we wanted to, but not too much, and we could possibly just bring that exposure down a little bit more, just to help dull it down again. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that. Have a go on your images, see what you can achieve, but that is a really straightforward, simple process of just kind of dulling down these images and giving you that lovely vintage effect. So yeah, enjoy that, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.